Welcome to Emory University, Goizueta Business School, at Masters of Science and Business Analytics web chat. My name is Allison Jacobs, and I am the Assistant Director of Admissions for the MSBA program, and I am joined today with two of our MSBA alums, Pratik Kenny and Mira Stepanova. We're going to spend the next hour with you talking to you about the MSBA program, the admissions process, and give you some tips and hints on how to present a very successful application to the program. Before we get started, I just wanted to cover a few logistics issues. First of all, this web chat is being recorded, so if you're having any technical difficulties, don't worry. We will be able to send this out to you in about a week's time, and you'll be able to view it at your convenience. Secondly, we do want to make sure that we answer your questions about the program and the admissions process, so feel free to type in your questions into the chat box at any point during the webinar, and we will try to address those at the end of this hour. So before I get started though, I would like to have each of our alums introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the heart of the program. Pratik?
So hey everyone, my name is Pratik Kenny. I am originally from Seattle and went to University of Washington for undergrad. I was looking at various programs out there for grad school, and I think what stood out to me about the MSB program was it was something that really fit my interests, especially that it was within the business school. And so, yeah, it brought me to Atlanta, and I've now been here for the past 2 years. Came back here in July of 2017, enjoyed the inaugural class, which was really exciting, brand new, a lot of excitement, and now having been part of the alumni community for the past year or so, it's great to be able to give back in this way as part of this panel and through various events on campus. So thank you.
Nice. Hi everyone as well. My name is Mira Stepanova. I'm originally Bulgarian, so a long way from home. I did my undergrad in international business management in the Netherlands and spent about 2 years afterwards working first in digital marketing, later on in mergers and acquisitions. Coming to the US was the first time I'm on this continent, and I joined the second cohort of the MSBA program, so MSBA of 2019. After the program, I've been working now in Georgia Pacific as a senior analyst, acting as an internal consultant doing digital transformation projects for the whole company.
Wonderful. I just want to give you some key facts about our MSBA program. We started the program 3 years ago, so we are on our third cohort. It is a 10-month STEM-based program that really focuses on the intersection of data, business, and technology. It was designed to create business data scientists. However, the curriculum, which you'll see in a minute, is very technical, but all of it is taught by business school faculty with a business school perspective. The 10 months is very intensive, as I'm sure you will hear throughout the program, but it truly was designed to give you the skills to start applying those skills as quickly as possible. So I'd like to take a minute and ask each of our applicants, first of all, there's many degrees out there. Why did they decide to pursue a Master of Science in Business Analytics? And then to follow on that, why did they choose the Goizueta program specifically? So Mira, would you like to start with that question?
Of course. So as I mentioned earlier, I come from a business background. I studied international business management. I was very much working in business before joining this program, but I've always had this feeling that so many of the decisions that we have happening in business are taken based on seniority or gut feeling of the person, and I knew there's a smarter way. I knew there's a way to use data, to use past experience and knowledge in a more structured way. So I started leaning towards finding a way to take data-driven decisions, and that led me to discovering the MSBA programs. And honestly, the first time I heard about Goizueta was from an MBA student that came here. After all, MSBA was quite new at Emory, but I heard very good things about the career services, about the teaching that's being done, and that transferred to the MSBA program because they're taught from the same school. And I think Pratik mentioned something really interesting earlier. The program here is taught within the business school. When doing my research on programs out there, I found two types of programs. There are programs that are held within the computer science departments, and there are programs that are held in the business school. And I wanted to keep the connection to what problem are you solving? What value are you adding to business, rather than just, this is a cool technology that you can use and this is a cool thing that you can build, because I don't think in isolation that would have been enough for me. So that's why I lean towards programs that are in business school, and then going into, once I had my offers for MSBA programs from business schools, it was really the shortness of the program. I didn't want to be out of the working life for too long. If I can achieve the same thing in 10 months, why spend 2 years on it? And also through the admissions process, I really felt, and Alison, that's kudos to you really, I felt like someone had an interest in knowing me, in knowing what's best for me and helping me move ahead and get the next step in my career. Where in other places, I was kind of, I don't know, a checklist item. I don't know how to describe it, but I could feel it through the process, and I assumed that would transfer later on as I'm doing the degree, and it did, and it was a great choice.
Great, thank you. Pratik?
Yeah, so kind of going off what Mira is talking about, I think for me, I came from, my undergrad degree was mathematical sciences. So it was a combination of math, computer science, applied math, and statistics. So coming from this kind of technical background, not taught by any business school professors, I entered the workforce as an analyst for an insurance company. And I kind of hit that point in my career where I wanted to go to grad school, and I think because of my technical degree, I wanted to go to a program within the business school. And so what was interesting is that initially my approach was only applying for MBA programs out there, including the Emory MBA program. But as I was doing my research, I discovered the MSBA program at Emory, which is, it just really intrigued me because it combined not only my interest in data and analytics and coming from that type of background, but it also was centered, as Mira talked about, in the business school, which again, the network of the business school, the connections you have with faculty and staff, also your connection as an alumni to the school is something that's super unique at every business school around the US and around the world. And so I think for me, coming into or applying for programs, the MSBA program at Goizueta was really stood out to me. And I think another intriguing fact, which I even talked to Alison about in my interview, was the fact that I was being part of the inaugural class, something that was new, something that was different, in a way almost like taking a risk of some sorts to try something new, but it's a risk that's paid off significantly in the sense that I've also been able to give back to the program in a big way as an alumni, as an alum. So in that regard, that's what brought me to Goizueta, and that's what really stood out to me about the MSBA program. And we'll talk more about kind of like the analytics and the curriculum, but I think overall that feeling of wanting to be a part of something new and different, and as well as being able to combine my interests was what really drew me to the Goizueta MSBA program.
Perfect, and I'm glad you brought up the curriculum because that's what we are going to talk about next. I know many of you have had a chance to review the curriculum online, so I'm not going to go through the very specifics of it, but I do want to give you a little bit of a view of what your 10 months will look like. You will start the program July 15th and enter into a number of boot camps. We recruit from a wide variety of backgrounds, as you can hear from Mira and Pratik. And the boot camps are really designed to get everyone up to speed before the fall semester starts. So we offer a business boot camp, a technology boot camp, and a math boot camp. And also during this summer session, you will take a 2-credit-hour stats class. The fall semester is really designed to provide you with the technical, business, and data skills necessary to go out and become dangerous as a business data scientist. So you'll see classes such as machine learning, business analysis, decision optimization, as well as visualization in that semester. And your second semester is really designed to be more application of the skills that you have learned. So in addition to taking some electives, you'll also work on your Capstone experience, which is where you will work for a company using their data to solve their problem. So, Mira, I'd like to direct my question to you. Coming from a non-technical background, how did you prepare for this very technical program? And what would be some tips you could provide our audience today if they are coming from a business or non-STEM-based degree?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question because, to be honest, I was super scared. Sometimes we say you don't know what you don't know. I knew that I'm getting into something very difficult. So be aware, it does take time, it does take effort, but it is possible. Some of the things I did was try to understand the field itself. So beyond the fact that I didn't know how to code things to begin with, I also didn't know how those people think, what matters in that area. So the first thing I actually did, even before applying, was start reading journals, start reading articles about what the technologies out there are, how they're being used. I'm remembering now Towards Data Science as being a great website that I would follow, and I would look at examples that really start with, this was a business problem, this was how it was transferred to a data science problem, then it would go into how it was solved, which I didn't understand at that point. But it helped me get into the understanding of how to think analytically and also what's possible. And I knew that in the program I will learn the details of how to be able to do it myself. In terms of the specific technical skills, there are courses out there, more than you can imagine. I tried doing some before applying. Luckily, after applying, Allison actually provided me with a list of courses that are recommended to follow. I think it was Coursera. I don't remember the website anymore, but courses that are recommended to follow in order to catch up with the basics so that you're able to follow the program. And for me, it was even a conditional admit, so I would only be able to start the program if I'm able to cover those courses, because of course we wanted to ensure the quality of people doing the program. And the bootcamp that Allison mentioned was the one place where I was able to level the ground with others, because I clearly had a shortcoming, but what surprised me was other people had their shortcomings too. So while I was lacking coding skills, for example, there were people who came from technical backgrounds and had no idea about business problem solving or marketing or finance as much. So we actually paired up, or actually grouped up, it wasn't only pairs, and we helped each other. So yes, it's difficult, but there are ways to get there, and there are people who are helping you along the way.
Perfect. Pratik, you know, we talk about the 10-month program and the intensity of the program. So
Absolutely.
could you help maybe shed some light as to what that really means, and maybe what challenges you faced with such an intense curriculum in such a short period of time?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think so. I think the one thing about this program, and I think Mira talked about it as well, is like given that it is a short program, you know, you kind of feel like you're coming in and you're coming out really quickly through the program, gaining a lot of skills and learning a lot in a very short time frame. And I think that obviously there are pros and cons to all those programs out there, but what really stuck out to me was that I was able to come in with the skill sets that I had, also practicing and taking some courses beforehand, and going through boot camp, level setting our backgrounds and experiences, and be able to hit the ground running in the fall semester, really like learning a lot in a short time frame. And that it is challenging, I'm not gonna lie. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy, long nights in the libraries. Usually the MSB students are the last ones, but we were proud about that. But I think more than anything, you have the biggest thing is that every student in the program is going through the same thing. And so it really is, I think the best part is that you get to work with a variety of types of students with also similar mindsets in terms of trying to solve a problem. And wanting to get wanting to get things right. And so you work together and you have a support system around you, not only amongst your students, but with the faculty and staff and overall Goizueta community. And so you don't feel like the 10 months the 10 months are intense, but you feel like you are supported from all angles throughout your 10 months in the program. And I think one thing that really helps is that while you are also, focused on the MSBA curriculum, at the same time, there are so many other pieces outside of the academic courses that support you along the way, from career services to the Capstone project to the mentor program, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later. But all those different pieces of the program is what I think really gets you prepared for that post-graduation opportunity. And so, yeah, I think honestly, I think that's being around people that were in that same boat as I was. I think really helped me get through the 10-month program and kind of slowed down the intensity in a way that I felt coming out of the program I was ready for my next opportunity.
Yeah, and I think both of you have mentioned the small class size and the
Yes.
bonds that you have built during the program, and that's one of the things that I think makes our program unique, is that we are small and our goal is to remain small. So, in the past 2 years, we've admitted 44 students to the program from all different backgrounds. Our average GMAT has been around a 722, but the range is much broader than that, so we don't want that number to potentially scare off any of you today that might not have hit that exact mark. 40% of our students have work experience, and the average of that work experience is about 3 years. And, Pratik and Mira both brought some work experience into the program, but that is certainly not a requirement. So being a part of a very small program and a very small business school, allows us to offer things that are very unique. Pratik already made mention to the mentor program, the leadership program. When we do our capstone experiences, we're able to actually bring a company for each team of 4, so it's a different project with a different company. So Pratik, could you talk to us a little more about some of those things that you did outside of the classroom that are really memorable to you, and what really bonded you to the Goizueta community?
Absolutely. So I think I know I briefly mentioned the mentorship program earlier. One of the cool things about being part of the analytics space is that there are a lot of analytics professionals out there who are really excited to support the next generation of analytics professionals out there. And so there are people, in a variety of companies, not only in Atlanta, but around the US and around the world, who are connected to Goizueta, who are Goizueta alumni, or have some connection to the Goizueta community. And all of them, over the past couple years, our program has connected with all of them. And as a result, many of these maybe executives or seasoned professionals, they want to mentor us as analytics students. And so it's been really cool because I've stayed in touch with my mentor and even tried to be a mentor to future cohorts as well, including the current cohort. And I think because there are different avenues for mentorship within the program and within Goizueta, it has allowed me to not only learn about what analytics and specifically business analytics or data analytics is all about in a professional sense, but also being able to guide folks that are going through the program and help them understand how that academic experience that you have on campus can translate into a professional experience outside of campus. And so that's been really meaningful to me. Another thing that's very unique to Goizueta is something called KEGS, and it's called Keeping Everyone, it stands for Keeping Everyone at Goizueta Social. And what's really cool is that this has been a tradition at Goizueta, where essentially every Thursday folks from the graduate programs and undergraduate programs have their respective socials, and people are just having a good time socializing and having a great opportunity to connect between students and faculty and staff. And one of the cool things is that being part of the inaugural class, we kind of were able to get ingrained into the broader Goizueta community, and one of those ways that we did that was through kegs. And I think now the current cohort is very well, immersed into that environment, which has been awesome to hear, and it's cool to see that those traditions and that those types of programs will continue on for future cohorts as well. So I think those are a couple of things that really stood out to me in Goizueta, and now being an alum, there are many opportunities to stay involved, whether through an opportunity to be a part of a panel like this, or other opportunities on campus with the broader Goizueta community and Emory community as well. So I would say that a combination of the intimate learning environment and the programs associated with that is what really drew me to this MSBA program.
Perfect. And, we talked a little bit about the Capstone experience, and I think that's another place where the intimate learning environment really comes into place, because you not only are getting faculty support on this project, you're also getting the support of our executive director, who is a seasoned analytics professional and will really guide you through the logistics and the project management of those specific assignments. So Mira, could you talk to us a little bit about your Capstone experience and maybe some of the things that now that you're working at Georgia Pacific, you think back, wow, that really helped me be where I am today?
Yeah, definitely. So first a bit about the Capstone experience itself, so you guys can imagine what it's about. As Allison mentioned, because we're a small cohort, we were able to have different companies with different projects for every group. We had 11 companies, and before we even began our Capstone projects, I think a month before, all those companies came either on site or through video conferencing and presented their problem and the use case that they're looking to have. We gave our preferences and were assigned to companies that match our preference, but in the same time, we're putting teams of 4 that bring a good combination of technical and business skills, of different cultural perspectives and backgrounds, of different levels of experience. So as we were learning, we weren't just learning from the Capstone company and project itself, but also from the group of teammates, because they were tailored to make a perfect match of exchanging skills among ourselves. And my specific Capstone, I worked with Nightscope. It's a Silicon Valley company that does autonomous security robots. We cannot speak much to the exact things we did, but to simply put what we did, we used data science to detect, predict, and ultimately prevent crime. In terms of the Capstone experience and the learnings, things that stood out to me were the relationship with the client. I think that was more than what I expected to get out of it, because up until that point you would have had projects in teams, so you do know how to solve a problem, you do know how to work in a team. But it's different solving a problem that exists in a vacuum of a training scenario. It's different to face a client and figure out that actually the client isn't completely sure what their problem is. They have a vague idea of what they're trying to solve, but it's part of your job that I didn't even imagine was part of our job to help guide them into understanding what exactly they're trying to achieve, what does success look like, what do they have, what are they not seeing, and transfer this in a data science problem that you can solve. And going back to what Allison mentioned of how that translates into my current job at Georgia Pacific, I am doing project management as part of my role right now. And I was amazed to see that this is part of every project. You don't think of it as you're going through school, but it's actually very important to be able to handle the relationship with the client, to communicate and to guide the client into understanding what's possible and making them clarify what they want. Other things that stood out, as I mentioned, the learning in the group was tremendous because it was a challenging project. So it brought out the best and most of everyone, and because of that mix of skills, we had technical people, we had experienced people. Everyone was very willing and able to coach the others, and everyone was taking a lead within their specific area. So you in the same time would be leading and following depending on the area. Another thing, we did have the program director and another professor joining as subject matter experts. So we would have limited time every week, I think it was 10 minutes only with them, to ask questions and get insights from their experience. So you had to be very thoughtful of how you spend your time. You had to prepare well, and it's very representative of real world scenarios when the time of subject matter experts is very limited, so you have to be thoughtful of how you use it. Yeah, and overall, even now we have a great relationship with the company moving forward, so it goes beyond just the Capstone project.
And Pratik, you're actually working in consulting now,
Absolutely.
so maybe you could draw some similar, experiences that you had on your capstone that you're seeing in your role now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think one of the things, going off of what Mira also talked about, I think actually being a part of the Capstone project, it was probably the coolest academic experience you could have that really showcased what a professional setting or a professional project would be like, where you could actually, make mistakes, talk through things with your team and figure things out over time, but without obviously the consequences. And so it's really cool because you got a lot of mentorship. You were guided by other people, other folks within the program, your own teammates, your client, of course. And I think because of that experience, I was extremely intrigued by the space of consulting. I didn't know what analytics consulting would be like, but that was a space that I think was really intrigued by because of my Capstone experience. Actually, my Capstone partner was our leading partner, FedEx. And so I had an opportunity to really not only learn a lot about FedEx's business, but at the same time really got to understand what their analytics capabilities are and what in real life my future clients would be like. And so I think that really translated into my current job as a analytics consultant for a company called C-Tech Consulting. We actually work with the aviation industry, and so it was really interesting to kind of understand how the supply chain industry works through FedEx, but then also be able to translate a lot of those industry-specific trends and analytics trends to the consulting space. So that's been honestly, I think, the Capstone project through our MSBA program really kind of encouraged me to pursue a career in consulting, after graduation.
Great. Well, since we're talking about careers, we will now transfer over to career services. I know many of you today are looking to either change industries, change jobs, or maybe launch your career. So career services is, of course, very important to you. It is also very important to us at Goizueta in all of our programs. And Goizueta has consistently been ranked for its superior career services as a business school for the last 10, 15 years. So we take this very seriously. We prepare students by putting them through workshops to really get them employer ready, as we would like to say. And then, of course, we have a number of events geared to match students with employers that are looking for business data scientists. So, Pratik, if you could just tell us a little bit about your experience with our career services, and
Sure.
maybe either an event or a experience that really stood out to you as maybe being defining in your career.
Absolutely. I still remember it distinctly because I went to the Spring Goizueta Career Fair, which is just for Goizueta students, specifically Goizueta grad students, and this was actually the first time the MSBA students were involved in this type of career fair in the spring, and this was, I think, probably March timeframe. And what was awesome about it was all the other companies that were there had Goizueta representatives. In a way, what I mean by that is Goizueta alums who are now working at those companies. And so what was really cool was I had an opportunity to kind of like meet a lot of folks who understood what Goizueta is all about, what the community is all about, what the school is all about, and knew exactly what I had to offer when I was showing them my resume. And oddly enough, C-Tech Consulting, I had actually not even heard about C-Tech Consulting until I reached that career fair. And fortunately, I had a great conversation with some of the executives who are also Goizueta alums talking to me at the booth. And that translated into an opportunity there at C-Tech Consulting, and now I've been there for about a year and a couple months. And so I think that what was super unique about the career services program, not only within the MSBA program, but within the Goizueta Business School overall, is that there's a genuine care for every student that comes through Goizueta about what not only their time here matters, but also their time after here equally matters. And I think that's what was really unique about our program, is having a program office that was really that cared a lot about our success through the program and guiding us and preparing us for a career post-graduation. And that included opportunities like this Goizueta Career Fair, where we could meet a variety of different folks and network and practice our skills, whether it's like talking at a career fair or going through an interview process. And so as somebody that was completely new to consulting, didn't know what to expect, I had opportunities because of the Goizueta MSB program to kind of prepare myself and be ready for an opportunity, consulting opportunity here in Atlanta. And so yeah, that career fair, it honestly changed my life. So I would definitely say it was a career-altering and life-altering experience for sure. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Mira, would you like to share your experience?
For me, it's a type of experiences. I can't narrow it down to one. It was really the company visits that were the most impactful, the most useful, I would also say, because there's so much information that you can find out there about companies. Yes, you can talk to people at booths, but you get only a glimpse, kind of outside view. Throughout the year, I think we visited over 10 companies for half days, where you would be able to build a very intimate understanding of not only what the company does, what their analytics practice looks like, but also an idea of the company culture. And for me, it was really important to find my fit. So not only do what I like, but do it in an environment and a company that shares values similar to mine, and a place where I would feel energized and motivated every day. And that's only something you can understand having spent more time with a company. And for me, that was through the company visits. Funny enough, I am working in one of the companies that we went to visit, Georgia Pacific, but even the companies that we visited and I decided not to apply to have been a very educational experience, because it taught me what's out there, and it also taught me what I like and what I don't like. Something that was a dream come true, I would say, was our visit to the Silicon Valley. I mean, the Googles and the Facebooks of this world, you always think of it, you always hear of it, but being able to be there and ask questions to the people and have those people commit 1 hour, 2 hours of their day to answer each and every question you have, I mean, that's an experience of a lifetime, and that's something you can't get in many programs. So it would really be the the visits for all the companies we went to.
And I do have to share a story about the Silicon Valley visit that I think shows how brave both Mira and I are. We went to a hot pot restaurant with all of the students that went, and we let our students from China order.
Yep.
And so they ordered some very exotic things, both of which Mira and I happily tried and now have great stories that
Yep.
we have tried brains and blood, right?
Yes.
So that was super fun, and I think those are the kinds of experiences that you can expect from coming to Goizueta. The West Coast trek, when we went with Mira, was our first time going to the West Coast. And you know, Pratik's cohort was the first cohort, so everything has been a first for them, and we're starting to really learn what works and really how to modify those experiences to keep making them better and better. So I want to now jump into the admissions process. Hopefully everyone in the webinar is very excited and getting ready to submit their application for our upcoming deadline in October 4th. One of the things that I want to highlight from this webinar, and I'll have Pratik and Mira to kind of hopefully echo this, is that, you know, we as an admissions committee look at you as your application very holistically. We are not focused on any one thing. You saw the profile of our class earlier and saw, yes, our GMAT, GRE scores are high, but that is not at all the only thing we look at. And because we're so small, we really are looking for the people that are going to fit into this culture. So in addition to your GMAT, GREs, we're going to look at your academic background, your transcripts. This year we have backgrounds, a huge variety of backgrounds, including sociology and psychology majors. We will look at your work experience if you have it, but if not, we're going to be looking at those internships that you have done and maybe some of the things that you've done in college. We do want you to at least have some experience in coding. It doesn't have to be an intensive class. It can be exposure through online courses. It can be, you know, just maybe a computer science class that you took. But more than anything, we want to be able to see the passion that you have for entering this field, and maybe your plan for how you are going to get up to speed on the more technical aspects if you're not coming from that background. So I would just like for Pratik and Mira maybe to talk a little bit about the application process, maybe some things that you did to prepare yourself for the program, and then also maybe give the audience some things that they can expect in terms of timeline, interviews, that sort of thing. So Mira, if you wanna get started.
Yeah, of course. I really like what you mentioned about the passion, because as you see, there is, and I'm thinking of my cohort because I don't know the exact profiles right now, but we really had people from all over the place, people with different backgrounds, people with different experience. But the one thing that was unifying us all that I could see was our passion for this field. And I think looking back at the intensity and how much work and effort it took to get up to speed on what you're missing, but also do good in the program and take the most that you can within those 10 months, you're gonna love what you're doing or else it's not gonna work out. So being able to showcase that in your application, I think is very, very valuable, because technical shortcomings you can catch up on. Passion, you either have it or you don't. So try to show that in your application. GMAT was, of course, a very important. I took the GMAT. I know you accept GRE as well. Was also a difficult piece, but there are a lot of materials out there. There are forums that give you step-by-step preparation guides. There are so many books on the topic, courses on the topic. Don't forget that it's not the only deciding criteria. I think Allison just mentioned about it. Even if you don't have the score, it's not the end of the world. You really are looked at as a person, as a holistic candidate, rather than just GPA and test scores. So that's something that we also saw in the interview process. And I'm gonna give Frederick a word as well before, but I really want to talk about the interview because I was shocked. So I've interviewed for jobs, I've interviewed for universities, multiple ones. It was the first interview where I could actually, I could really feel that the person is interested in knowing me. I wasn't feeling tested, I was feeling that someone is trying to understand each and every piece of me. So that was unique. It was very friendly interview, and I mean, you see Allison. It's hard to to be scared of her. So it was much more enjoyable than I imagined. So don't be scared. Be your complete, honest self. It won't do you good to get into any program for something that you're not, because then it's only gonna crash and burn later on. So be your complete, honest self, and know that people will look holistically at you and will make sure that this is a fit both for the program but also for you.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, kind of going off what Mira is talking about, I think there's no cookie cutter way of looking at any application process, and especially at a business school like Goizueta. Especially within the MSBA program, admissions, it is all about how you as an individual can contribute to the culture, to the cohort, to the future alumni base of this program. And I think that is something that Allison and other members of the program office will be evaluating you on. And I think in order to best perform your best, in that process, is to, as Mira talked about, is just be yourself. I think it can sound super cliche, but honestly, it is the best advice that I think anybody could have given me, and I've given to other prospective students as well. Going through this process obviously is very stressful. You don't know what to expect, but going through this process at Goizueta, I was pleasantly surprised at just how structured and as well as how transparent the whole process was. And I honestly, I talk to Allison about this all the time, but I still recall my conversations with her through the interview process when she called me up to offer me an opportunity here as a member of the MSBA program. And so those memories stay with you, and I think when there's a fit, when that conversation or that experience is something that is etched in your mind and will be etched in your mind for a long time. And so for me, I think that's the best advice that I can give to all of you who are watching and who may watch this video down the line is really just be yourself, be authentic, really know exactly why you're applying to an MSBA program and why specifically you're applying to Goizueta's MSBA program, because there is a unique community, a unique family culture here, and there's a unique fit that everyone who comes to the school has. And I think if this community and this school and this program really vibes with you, I think that's where you will stand out. And so really try to do your research, understand what this program has to offer, understand how you can and be able to communicate to through your application why this program is a good fit for you. So
I think that's such an important piece that we don't talk much about with graduate schools, right? But when we talk about future employers, it's all about finding the right fit, the culture, and really you should spend the same amount of time researching your cultural fit with the graduate school as you would any potential employer. And one of the ways to do that, of course, is attending these webinars, but I think more than anything, reaching out to the current students and alums that are in the program and asking them questions. Because not only are you going to be spending your next 10 months with us, but really which graduate school does shape what you do beyond, the graduate school. So really put some time up front. And I know that when I interview, it's a much more interesting conversation if people have spoken to alums or current students and can make reference to that, because then the interview turns from an interview to more of a conversation about what you know about the program and how you feel that you are going to be a fit into this culture and environment. So I think that may be the golden piece of information that comes from this webinar today. We can talk about letters of recommendations, interviews, all that, but really it's about the passion and fit for the program. So I want you guys to start thinking about your questions now, because we are getting close to that point where we're going to open it up to you guys. But there are a few things I do want to cover before we get to that point. One is funding the program. MSBA and graduate schools in general are not cheap, as you probably already know by now. Emory and Goizueta, we are a private university, so the tuition is going to be a little bit higher than maybe what you see. But the good news is that we do have merit-based scholarships that we do provide. When you apply to the program, you're automatically considered for scholarship. And the more that we have been out there and around, we are getting company support now, and so hopefully we'll see that scholarship fund continue to increase. So please make sure that you realize that is available, and there's nothing extra you have to do for that. But I think the thing that really makes Goizueta unique is the fact that we are affiliated with the Emory Credit Union, and we are able to provide our international students a loan that does not require a U.S. cosigner, co-borrower, and is at a very competitive interest rate. And that loan will cover tuition and fees as well as living expenses. And you'll have over 25 years to pay off this loan. And when you look at the salaries coming out of our program, you know, hopefully you'll see that that's something that you would be able to do quickly. So please do not be deterred by our tuition prices. Also, just want to give you some important dates to consider. We are coming up on our round 1 deadline, so we have that coming up next Friday, October 4th. For those of you that apply by October 4th, we will notify you by November 22nd. And then our next upcoming one is November 8th. I really encourage all of you, since you are on this webinar and are thinking about our program, to go ahead and get into one of those first 2 deadlines, because the 3rd deadline is truly one of our largest deadlines, and certainly I think the priority deadlines are definitely in your advantage to consider. So with that, I would now like to turn things over for questions, but before doing that, I would like for Pratik and Mira to maybe come up with some one parting piece of advice for our students, or maybe something that they should be thinking about now in the process. So Pratik, would you like to get started?
Good question. I will say in this process of doing your research on different schools out there, graduate programs, and figuring out what that fit is, I think a big piece is what you are doing right now, and sitting through, walking through or sitting through webinars, networking sessions, info sessions. This is the time to really figure out what each program has to offer, and helping you try to figure out what that fit is. So to all of you who are watching right now, or who will be watching shortly, this is a great first step in the right direction, and I would encourage you to do that for all the programs that you apply to, because I think that will help streamline the process for you. And I think overall, just really thinking about kind of what has brought you to this point and why grad school is that right next step for you. For me, I think I was told Allison this in my interview as well, is like one thing was about taking that next step within my career, but it was also being a part of a network, being a part of a business school network that is broader than anything you can imagine. There are so many connections that I now make in my own company and amongst my clients, where Emory and Goizueta and just the community overall and the network overall, it comes up in conversation all the time. And I think that's something that definitely I would encourage you all to look at, in that is what Goizueta and that's what the MSBA program here is all about. It's about family, it's about culture, it's about community. And as we celebrate our 100th year as a business school, there are so many different activities and events happening on campus just this year alone, where alumni and current students and faculty and staff are really involved in so many different ways. And so really try to figure out what that fit is for you. And I think this is the step in the right direction, and continue to do your research as you're applying, because you can prepare all you want for your GMATs and GREs, finding your recommendation letters. Obviously those are very key elements of the application process, but another step is taking that initiative to understand what each program is all about, and in our case, what the Goizueta MSB program is all about, and figure out if that is the right place for you. So yeah.
Wow, you actually covered
Sorry,
almost the same points as I have. So
Try to mix it up who went first, because you never get to be quite as sharp as the second one.
My apologies.
But what that says is, if we both, because we didn't know what
we're gonna say.
we were thinking about, so that only shows how important those points are. If independently we're thinking of the same, I think the only thing that I wanted to say that you didn't cover so far is really don't be scared or discouraged. And I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who comes from abroad and someone who also comes from a different background. American education system can be very overwhelming, to put it softly, and also going into a field that you don't have prior experience with. The combination of two can really be scary. So I was very pessimistic about what I'm capable of and whether or not I'm a good candidate. I didn't realize that there is so much value and so much potential inside of me. So I was actually, at some point I was thinking of not going through with it, just because I thought, I'm not gonna make it. I mean, this is way above my head. So when in doubt, persevere, because it really, you don't realize sometimes how much potential you have in you. And I'm seeing now how employers are reacting to what I'm bringing to the table. And a year ago, year and a half now, I couldn't have even imagined. So don't give up and pursue your full potential.
Absolutely. And one other thing I was just going to mention is, one of the things that's unique about our Goizueta MSBA program is the team-oriented environment. I know that there are a lot of MSBA programs or even data science-oriented programs, but as we talked about, being in the business school, it is about working in a team. And so while you will have a lot of individual projects and individual assignments and tests that you will have to study on your own for, there are equally as many team-based projects, the Capstone project being one of them, but each class will have a team-based component to it. And so I think it's really trying to understand if that is something that you're looking for, that balance between individual and team-based assignments and projects. That's what you're going to find here at the MSBA program, and you will thrive if you have an opportunity to kind of experience both.
Wonderful. Well, we do have a few questions coming in, so we certainly want to take the next few minutes to address those. And one, of course, is the video essay. I think that's always on someone's mind. And so, unfortunately, these two aren't going to be able to add too much to this, because Pratik did not have a video essay, and Mira had a very different video essay than what we are doing today. So I'll briefly explain that. So one of the things we found that is when we give you the video questions up front, we get very rehearsed answers, and that is not the point of the video essay. It's really to start to get a glimpse of you as that individual person that we've been talking about all day today. So from your point of view, this is actually good news, because you can't really prepare for this video essay. I know that's scary for some of you, but so what is going to happen is that you will be given a random question. This will be out of over 100 questions in our database. And you will have 30 seconds to prepare your answer and then 60 seconds to give your answer. If you don't like that particular question or answer, that's okay. You can do it again, but you'll get a different question. So you will then go back through the cycle. So my piece of advice is what we've said all along, is be yourself in this video essay, because that's where we can start to see if this program is going to be a fit for you, and that's something that you as an applicant should definitely want as you apply to these programs. So don't worry about it. You can't prepare for this, and really just be authentic and be yourself. So another question that just came in, which I'm so glad that you asked this question. This is one of the best questions I think I've seen, is can you share about Goizueta core values and how the students actually can see these values through the program and then perhaps show those values as they move on beyond the program. So I don't know which one of you would like to start with that. Mira, since you had to follow Pratik's great answer from the other one.
It's funny that you asked that, because so I'm actually now in 360 evaluation season, and one value that has stood out and employers are echoing so much currently for me is humility. And being in a technology field where quite often in the room you're the person who is more, because you're younger, because you've studied this, you're more aware of the latest and greatest technologies, and you're going to people who have been doing something the same way for 10 years. And you have to explain to them that, hey, there's a smarter way to do this. Approaching this with humility actually is super important and super valued in the business world. So as I was in the program, the values were echoed to us and the importance was raised. I didn't realize why. I personally aligned with most of them, so it was easy to integrate it as part of me, but only when I went into the business world and I saw what employers value, and that they don't only look at skills and technical knowledge, but also look at your character, so to speak, did I realize the importance of the core values. Does that answer?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Pratik, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think that level of, I think being in the data analytics field requires a level of curiosity. And I think that's something that not only did I think, take away from being a part of the program, but also now being in the consulting space where you have to, and especially if you're involved in the data or analyzing data, you have to be curious about asking the right questions, and you're curious about what type of answers that you can glean from the data. Sometimes it's not as, somebody's not asking you a question, sometimes it's like you have to discover the question through, like, through your own mindset, through your own kind of thinking. And so, excuse me, I think the curiosity, I think, is something that is I think, a value that, I kind of adopted through this program, and I think can be kind of applied down the line. And of course, we have our own Goizueta core values and MSBA program values, but curiosity, I think, is one thing that I think surprised me, is an area that I wasn't necessarily, like, really focusing on too much before entering the program, but now coming out of the program and now being in the consulting space, I think I've been able to apply it in that way. And honestly, all the values that we have within the program and business school, I think, apply through your experience here and as an alumni.
One question that I kind of like, and I think is fun that we haven't addressed, is living in Atlanta. And
yes.
Both of you moved to Atlanta from very different spots, and maybe in particular, this person would like to know a little bit about the restaurant scene in and around campus. So maybe you can talk just a little bit about your transition to Atlanta and some things that kept you in Atlanta, because when you graduate, you had the option of going anywhere you wanted.
Yep.
Absolutely. Should I
Alternate.
So this was actually one of the biggest reasons for me coming to Goizueta and coming to Emory was Atlanta. I was pretty much through all the grad school programs I was applying to, I wanted to have a city environment to be in. I wanted to be in a business school that was well connected to the city and the industry within the metro area. And so coming to Atlanta, I had honestly, when I was applying, had only been to Atlanta once for a family vacation. So I hadn't really seen what the metro Atlanta area was all about, or even honestly, I hadn't even visited Emory before. But I think what really stood out to me was that connection to the city. And so from a school perspective, what I will say is that Atlanta, Emory's connection and Emory's presence within Atlanta is something that's super unique and allows you to connect not only with employers, companies out there, but also the alumni network, because a lot of alumni still live in Atlanta. And I will tell you this, in that when I was applying for this program, I think I'd even talked to Allison about this, that I was expecting to be here only for 10 months, honestly. I was thinking of being in Atlanta for 10 months and then heading back home to Seattle, where I was born and raised and had lived my whole life. But halfway through the program, I got to this point where I was like, wait a second, like Atlanta is awesome. And not only that, but there's so much to explore in Atlanta that I would not have gotten just from 10 months of living here. And I think that's when I had a complete shift in my target companies, like what I wanted to do, my career aspirations, and I ended up only really like focusing on starting a career post-graduation here. And so that's what drew me to Atlanta, staying in Atlanta, and I've been here now for 2 years. Have loved it. And I think in terms of the restaurant scene, I will say around Emory, you have a lot of types of restaurants not around in this area, the North Druid Hills, Decatur area, but then also within the greater Midtown, Buckhead, and downtown areas, lots of opportunity, lots of cuisines, lots of 4- and 5-star type restaurants that I think you will be pleasantly surprised by, just the variety and the diversity within this space, and not only amongst the restaurants, but also the people you meet. I think the diversity and is something that really surprised me, and I think not only that, but I've learned a lot by being in this type of environment. So, yeah.
And unfortunately, I think we are at the end of our webinar. So if we did not get to your question, please make sure that you email it to one of us. I'm quite sure that you could find Pratik or Mira perhaps on LinkedIn,
Absolutely.
or I can give you their information if you have some follow-up questions for them. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We always have a good time when we are able to get together. And last words is please apply, and please keep doing your research, and we want to get to know you. And congratulations for taking this step as for joining us today, and we hope to perhaps see you someday on campus in Atlanta. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.